Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 237 of the All Dolphins podcast on this Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Before we start, we're going to do a birthday shout out
Whose birthday?
to When Dolphins Podcast Unite recent guest, Adam Beasley.
Oh, it's a Beasley birthday.
A Beasley birthday. So happy birthday, Bees. If you happen to watch this, doubt it, but in case you do, happy birthday. Already wished him a happy birthday via text message, but nothing wrong with doing it on the public airwaves. Lots to talk about on this Tuesday, where the Dolphins making a couple of significant, although not entirely unexpected moves. Before we do that, quick history lesson on number 37 in terms of draft history. The Dolphins have made one 37th overall selection in the NFL draft that happened all the way back in 1969 when they selected a defensive tackle by the name of Bob Hines from Pacific University, which I don't believe even has a football program anymore. And Bob Hines is significant enough that he was a starter on the defensive line for the perfect Dolphins of 1972. They've made a few 237th overall selections, including a good friend of ours, Isaiah Ford, wide receiver, who kept getting off the roster, coming back, practice squad, coming
Tidy
back.
shorts.
Yes.
One of my favorite sightings of
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
that season was Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was a big Isaiah Ford fan, wearing the tidy whitey shorts in honor of Isaiah Ford when he came back.
He had been traded to New England, got cut very quickly, and then came back to the Dolphins. And I think Fitzpatrick wore those shorts after the trade as a tribute to his.
That's what it was. He wore those shorts as a trade to the tribute. And if you haven't seen the shorts, I mean, they were tiny. When I say tiny, maybe there was 6 inches of material, and that's what Isaiah Ford practiced in. And it's all good. And then just how ridiculous did Ryan Fitzpatrick look in them? He looked even more ridiculous than Isaiah Ford did.
But it was hilarious, and we knew the reason why I was doing it, so it was very cool. But
that's one of the things about Ryan Fitzpatrick that he was so loved by his teammates and such a popular guy, no matter what team he was on. And you see kind of that personality on his Amazon network work.
Complete trip. And hat tip to Isaiah Ford, who was an absolutely great guy. Stuck around for a bit. I don't believe he's in the NFL anymore, but certainly gave it a shot. Had some moments, but anyway, be that as it may, let's get on to the news of the day on this Tuesday. And again,
which totally you can find at alldolphins.com. All day, steady stories, breakdowns. This gentleman over here to my right, I don't know, put up 5 possible team destinations for Christian Wilkins. It's a good read. I recommend it.
It was actually 7. I have to change the headline. I changed it. I started with 5, and then I put the headline first, and I came up with 2 other possible destinations.
Okay.
So anyway.
And then we've got a ton of news, which Poupard will get into right now.
Yes. As confirmed by sources, and it's all over the internet.
It's actually released by the Dolphins.
Has it been released yet? Or
yes, and they signed a defensive tackle too, by the way.
Oh, see, now I wasn't aware of that one. See, that's what happens when we're doing this thing.
Yeah, they
taping but live.
Some guy named Isaiah Mack, who I have never even heard of, but yeah.
I can't say the name rings a bell, but we're going to do some research on him, and we're going to write him up on Dolphins.com. But the other 2 moves, the release of most significantly Jerome Baker, and the release of cornerback Keon Crossan, and also, not that it's news, but the non-news is that it's now become official. The Dolphins did not apply a tag on any of their players, including Christian Wilkins, which means that as of Monday noon, he can legally talk to any other teams and negotiate. Whereas before it would be illegal tampering, and we know that never happens in the NFL.
Yeah, as if his agent hasn't been talking to teams already. Including the Dolphins. I personally do not think that the Dolphins are out of it. for Christian Wilkins. I think that they're a long shot, especially based on what I was told. Christian told his teammates, deuces, I'm outie 5,000 at the end of the season. And I was just like, there's no way they're not going to tag you. And lo and behold, they didn't tag him.
Is this where I throw myself some flowers for saying don't think it's a lock that they're going to tag him?
Yeah. And I'm actually working on a piece right now for alldolphins.com, which, not using the transition tag or the franchise tag on Christian gives you the avenue and mechanism to improve your roster, as opposed to having that big lump sum eating up your cap space. Because $22 million, as you first pointed out, is really the equivalent of like 3 players and some backups. I'm doing a breakdown now of just cap space and money and accounting. And let's say, for instance, with Christian Wilkins, let's say you sign him to a $105 million deal like Quentin Williams got. That year one cap space is $6.5 million, as opposed to you slapping him with the tag and eating up 18.5 or $22 million. So this gives them a little bit of flexibility. Now they've got to be strong bidders, and we'll see where Christian goes, because more than likely Christian is going to be signing with the highest bidder.
Yeah, and it's important to note that it's not as simple as, well, if they're going to sign him to a long-term contract anyway, why not lock him up with the franchise tag and then you replace it with a new contract? Except that until you get that new contract, you
have to account for the tag money.
Correct. And the Dolphins
right now they're struggling to get it down. I think they're, based on my amateur math, they're at about 18 with the cut of Jerome Baker and the cut of Keon Cross, and they're at like $18 million in cap deficit. Now, that's just what they need to clear by March 13th. That doesn't necessarily mean they can sign a single player. That doesn't mean that they can re-sign Robert Hunt or sign Christian Wilkins or even sign Bradley Trubb or Deshaun Elliott. No, they got to clear additional amount of cap space. And the best way to do that is restructuring some contracts, most notably Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey. And those are moves, if things go well, and basically favor the Miami Dolphins, that I expect to be done before March 13th.
And also don't think that the Dolphins have not had continual conversations with Wilkins' representation, trying to get to a long-term contract extension before we got to this point at 4:00 today. And basically they haven't reached an agreement yet. Will there be somebody on the open market that's going to give them way more? Mind you, the Dolphins are the only team that legally can talk to him until next Monday. But the chances, I know you laugh. I'm glad I can make you laugh, Omar. The chances, if they haven't been able to get it done now, the chances that they're going to be able to get something done before Monday at noon, probably not great chance.
Yeah, if you get this far, if you're Christian Wilkins and you got this far, and from what I was told, he put $1 million in injury protection on himself. If you got this far and it costs you $1 million to protect yourself so you can get your $100 million deal, I'm taking it to free agency. I don't care what you offer me.
Correct. Moving on, we talked about Wilkins ad nauseum. I recommend go to alldolphins.com, check out my list of possible destinations, 7 of them. Spoiler alert, Dolphins maybe possibly are included. Oh, maybe.
Yeah, Dolphins should be included. No question.
Don't tell me what to do with my stories.
I will tell you what to do.
Okay, fine. Sir, yes, sir. Jerome Baker, again, this is what we suggested all along was going to happen. The Dolphins, Jerome, we'd like to talk to you about the possibility of restructuring, pay cut your contract. And then those talks did not come to fruition where the two sides came to an agreement. So like, okay, Jerome, see if you can do better on the open market, with the possibility open that if nobody gives him the kind of contract he wants, they'll revisit the idea of bringing him back.
Yes, and this is no surprise to agent Drew Rosenhaus, who has 12 Dolphins clients and probably is working on a number of restructured deals, including Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins need Drew more than Drew needs the Dolphins at this present moment. And Jerome Baker will be just fine. I'm sure Drew Rosenhaus has talked to 31 other NFL teams about Jerome being on the market, as are, we go through this process every offseason where there are tons of veteran free agents. Jamal Adams just got released. Quentin Diggs just got released. Starting safety for and cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars just got.
Williams.
Yeah. There's going to be a probably an influx of maybe 70 quality starters in the NFL hitting the market. And you can sign them at any point. You don't have to wait for free agency. So teams are going to be restructuring and reordering their prospect boards. So I'm curious to see what other linebackers hit the free agent market, because I had to, for the piece that I did on Jerome Baker being released, I looked at what's available and what's out there. And one of the sites that I'm a huge fan of actually have Jerome Baker listed as, I should say, walterfootball.com. They got Jerome Baker listed as the 6th best inside linebacker. I disagree with them putting him ahead of Devin White, but, I like Jerome, and I think he's a very talented player, and I hope he does well and wish him the best out there on the free agent market. But do I see him as the 6th best free agent out there? I don't know about all that.
No, and all along, again, this cap number of $14.8 million for 2024 made it unrealistic that he was going to be back with that number. Something was going to happen all along. We've been saying it all along that there's no way in hell Dolphins have him at $14.8 million against the cap.
Yes,
it's just not. He's a good solid starter.
6 years.
But for a team with cap issues, he's not indispensable. And this is where, again.
Yeah. And this is every team. This is not just the Dolphins. Look at the Jets. And the Jets have about $40 million in cap space right now. They got CJ Mosley on the books for $17 million. That's either base salary. That's either an identical cap hit. That's either you're going to restructure your contract, probably take a bit of a haircut, or we're going to release you and put you out on the market. And if CJ Mosley, he would fit well into an Anthony Weaver defense. So this is a situation that's a very fluid situation. Things can change at the snap of a finger. And the Dolphins know this. They're well aware of it. And to be honest with you, their focus right now should be on clearing about another additional $30 million in cap space, just so that they can improve this roster, because I don't think retooling the roster is going to do it. So I think you need an influx of absolutely new talent. And realistically, you're going to have to, in my opinion, restructure Tyreek, restructure Jalen Ramsey, probably restructure Zach Sealer, and cut Jeff Wilson in order to put yourself in position to improve your roster.
Yeah, I'm a big CJ Mosley guy. I think he's a really good player. Problem is, I don't think he's going to come on the cheap, even if the Jets release him.
But I'm talking $11 million a year.
Do you think the Dolphins are really going to have the cap maneuverability to be able to bring a guy like that?
$11 million a year, you can, in year one, probably would look something along the neighborhood of $5 million in cap space. So they got it. It's would you CJ Mosley or Robert Hunt? Your choice. $11 million a year. You choose. Yeah, I just put you in a corner, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because also, given the age, CJ Mosley is like 32.
That is a very good point.
Going to be 32 in June, and Robert Hunt's what, 26, 27 maybe?
Yeah, but a right guard versus an inside linebacker. I'm not.
I think it's about, to me, it's like almost like this.
Really?
Yeah.
CJ Mosley's a very good player.
Oh, I agree. So Robert Hunt's a very good offensive lineman.
Okay. All
right.
And there are tons of teams that have cap crisis, that are in a cap crisis, like the Miami Dolphins. The Bills are the team that actually have more of a cap crisis than Miami. Chargers are right behind Miami right now, $25 million. The Saints, who annually build a team on who that coin, $17 million. Broncos, $60 million in cap deficit. Cowboys, $10 million, and they need to restructure Dak Prescott's deal. even our beloved Baltimore Ravens, and I say our beloved Baltimore Ravens, it's really just me that loves the Baltimore Ravens. They've got $9.5 million in cap deficit, and that's partly because they just franchise tagged their defensive tackle. So
Justin Madubuike.
I can't say his name, so that's why I never say his name.
And by the way, I don't love the Baltimore Ravens, but I have nothing but respect for that organization. So I don't know if that's the same thing as loving. So are you a Ravens queen? Is that what you're saying?
I am in. Everybody knows I'm a Ravens and 49ers. I'm a huge fan of how those organizations, how they build their teams, how their style of play. So those are my teams that I admire, that I believe in. And Ozzie Newsome's the best in the game. And I know people will say he's not running the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm like, you're not paying attention because he's still running the Baltimore Ravens.
Speaking of the Baltimore Ravens, I'm actually have the page of the gentleman right here, Isaiah Mack. Yep, played for the Ravens when Anthony Weaver was there in 2021, 2022. Played 4 games. He's got 25 career games since his first year, which was 2019 with the Tennessee Titans. Came into the NFL as a UDFA out of Chattanooga. He is 6'1", 299.
Okay. I mean, hey, listen, he's going to replace Christian. No worries.
How about we call him a depth signing? How's that?
I mean, you technically only have Zach Sealer on your roster right now. So
Brandon Peely. You always forget about Brandon Peely.
Do I? Yes. Or do I just?
It's even worse if you're going to say, no, I didn't forget about him. I didn't mention him. That's even worse.
Oh, man.
Deion Crossan also we had mentioned. By the way, I should point out that the 2 moves made today were among my good friend here to my left or my right, wherever I'm pointing, were part of his story on the 12 ways the Dolphins could create cap space. Those are the 2. We'll see how they follow up on the.
Yeah, I should retweet that out.
I did actually. You didn't see I tagged you on it. You didn't see it?
Let's say alldolphins.com. Yeah, that's what I did last week. I'm moving on right now. I'm actually shopping for free agents. Just me. Things that can help the team and all these possible weight cuts and waiver wire releases, like Quentin Diggs. He would look very good. Quandre Diggs. He would look very good playing next to Javon Holland. Just my personal opinion.
Again, it's not like the other day. Yes, and the deals can be structured certain ways. It's not like they're exactly floating in space where they're going to have a ton of maneuverability. So,
yeah,
I understand
but that's why the cap's a very fluid thing. You can make it happen if you want to, if you really want to. All it takes is you restructure Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill. They both have to be. Tyreek's going to want to be the top highest paid receiver in the NFL. There's a pivot interview up with him right now that I'm still going through, a fresh pivot interview that was seemingly taped at the Pro Bowl. So you can check it out. Nothing drastically earth-shattering, but very good interview by the pivot guys, Channing Crowder, Ryan Clark, and Fred Taylor. And then you could restructure Tyreek. You could restructure Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, Jalen's going to need a top 5 cornerback salary. He's right now on the books. He's going to get $25 million right now. All of it's guaranteed from the Dolphins. So that's clearly something that they would need to or want to restructure. You do both of those deals, and you're looking at $28 million in cap space. If you do both of those deals, which more than likely they're going to do them.
Yeah, well, they'll need players. So obviously, when I talk about they're only going to have so much space, they're going to have to fill out a roster to get, and then remember that it's only the top 51 that count against the salary cap until the final cuts in September. It's going to be or August 31st.
Yeah. So right now they're at 45 players. So that means they can add about 5 more, and the rest of the guys don't really count against the cap. So there's ways to dance around this whole thing. I think that knowing Steve Ross and who he is and what he wants and how he wants to win free agency, I think there's a big move coming. I don't know what it is. I don't know who it is, but they're going to make some moves to improve this roster because I think people's jobs are on the line and they just can't keep things status quo. Just my personal opinion.
Well, it can't be just losing players, and then not replenishing with some high-end players. So they're going to have to get some things. Quandre Diggs used to be a cornerback, was moved to safety. And by the way, it was interesting that the Russell Wilson trade was brought up as one of the worst ones ever in NFL history, obviously from a Broncos standpoint. But we were talking about Jamal Adams earlier.
Damn.
The Seahawks giving up 2 first-round picks for what they got from Jamal Adams during his time in Seattle. Not very good either.
He never made sense for me because he's a in the box safety that's just a big hitter, and I'm like, Jeremiah Bell, like, it's okay.
Jeremiah Bell. I mean, I said he was better than Jeremiah Bell. I mean,
was he?
Come on, dude. Seriously? Yeah.
Let me look at it.
He had some good years with the Jets before they wound up trading him, and
I think he was a lot.
Anyway, it was a horrible trade. Oh, and by the way, and I put on Twitter that the Dolphins have never had a trade that has come remotely close to the abomination that the Russell Wilson trade was for Denver. And then somebody dared reply that Tyreek Hill made, and it's like, really? The guy's been here 2 years. He's been an All-Pro both years.
1,700 yards,
MVP,
2 seasons, 20 touchdowns, 2-time All-Pro. Such a horrible decision made by the franchise.
No, and like I said, I'm going to repeat it. The Dolphins have never made a trade that's come even remotely close to that abomination where they gave up multiple high picks, and then on top of that, gave the player a ridiculous contract extension. Nothing remotely, and I'm sure Omar would probably say the Josh Rosen trade, 2.5 for Josh Rosen.
Yeah, I was racking my mind to figure out what was the worst trade that I've seen. I didn't even factor that in. I blocked that portion of my life out. I just unfollowed him on Twitter.
Josh Rosen?
Yeah, I didn't realize I was following him still. I don't know how I discovered it, and I was just like, no need for this loser. Boop, unfollow.
Wow.
That was such a bad trade. Man, oh my God. That was such a bad trade. He was such a bad player.
He was, but I will, and we've discussed this before. I will never fault a team that hadn't had a quarterback for the longest time for taking a shot.
Don't take somebody else's trash as your quarterback. I don't want to hear a word from you.
Okay. I got nothing on that.
You got nothing.
I got nothing. Like I said, I stated in my piece that nothing wrong with taking a shot, and again, it didn't pan out. So from that standpoint,
what was it? 2nd and a 4th?
2.5.
2.5. What a waste.
I mean, it might have been. They did the same thing. They gave up a 2 in 2004 to the Eagles for AJ Feely, who basically was a career backup. They gave up a 2 for Dante Culpepper, who lasted 4 games before he flamed out. Those were some of the bad ones, but nothing like what the Broncos gave up for Russell Wilson. Nothing like what the Browns
Russell Wilson was a Hall of Fame player when he left Seattle. So let's be respectful.
Except his play had started to dip, and they gave up such a ridiculous amount of draft capital to get him. And his play continued to tail, and then they gave him this ridiculous contract, and boom, lo and behold.
He didn't have a bad statistical season last year. I just think that the game has passed Russell a little bit. I think small quarterbacks that rely on athleticism that lost their athleticism, the game catches up to you. It catches up to all of us. You're looking at
time is undefeated. His passer rating was very good. It was 98 points. If you're going to go by that, but that's not the end all be all.
I know
he was actually better than his first year in Seattle. I'm sorry, in Denver.
Seattle, he was. Better than the first year in Seattle. His first year in Denver, he was that they were horribly coached.
Oh, are you suggesting Nathaniel Hackett doesn't hack it as a coordinator? Sorry, see,
I like what you did there. Let's talk about Jerome and the potential of replacing him. I don't think it's out of the question that Jerome could return because hell, if Chris Greer is talking about Xavier Howard returning, which I think is far-fetched delusion, I think it's possible that Jerome can return. It's really at the matter of what price. If I got David Long for 2 years, $10 million, that's pretty much the price that I'm putting on Jerome Baker. I'm curious to see if he can go get $5 million a year on the free agent market. He's with a very good agent, so there's a strong possibility that he can. To me, based on my history of contract studies, the average price that an NFL starter was being paid, especially when they've reached their 30s, is about $6 million. So anything in that neighborhood of 2 for 12 is probably what Jerome is realistically going to be looking at, unless the market just absolutely blows up for him. And he does have some scheme versatility. He does have some position versatility. I think Jerome's best seasons came as an outside linebacker for this Dolphins team.
This is where I'm going to point out, after we're done, I'm not going to do it right now, but after we're done, I would probably check the Minnesota Vikings depth chart to see what they have at linebacker, because their defensive coordinator, as we all know.
Yeah, but I don't think he was that big of a fan of Jerome. I think he liked and respected Jerome, but I don't know if he was like I absolutely need Jerome on my team kind of guy. Could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're wrong, and I know Jerome held Flo in high regard. I
Yes.
think depending, I have to say, I'm looking at their roster here right now. The
Yes.
Minnesota Vikings roster at linebacker: Brian Asamoah the second, Anthony Barr,
Jordan Hicks is a free agent. Oh, Jordan Hicks is a free agent, and Ivan Pace Jr. is the other starter.
That dude's a baller, man. Oh,
Anthony Barr is a free agent. Nick Vigil is a free agent. So yeah, they could use some inside linebacker help, especially if they don't re-sign Jordan Hicks. But they've got their own issues to deal with in the Minnesota Vikings defense. Primarily, let me see where they are from a cap space standpoint. The Minnesota Vikings have $37 million in cap space, so they got money to work with.
I would certainly suggest that there's a connection there. How do we look at his time in Miami? And by the way, did you know that with him gone now, and not counting X, even though his move now is not official, that Durham Smythe and Jason Sanders are now your longest tenured players on the roster? How about that?
Wow.
Baker had been tied.
Jason Sanders' days might be numbered, but anyway,
it's one of those. They save $2 million if they cut him, but then they have to sign a kicker. So
kicker for $2 million.
No, anyway. You can go the rookie free agent route, which a lot of teams do.
Absolutely.
But or I mean, if you get lucky and get the kicker that Dallas got last year, I mean, that guy's a complete freak. His name escapes me right now, but I know he missed like one kick the entire season, and it was kicking from 50 yards. Like,
Dallas is a very underrated talent evaluating team. Super underrated.
Yeah, except they never go anywhere in the playoffs. But that's a different story. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. And I look at Baker's time again. Never. I don't know if that ever would call him a difference maker. He also was never somebody who would like. You looked at him and say like it's a major hole on the defense.
Yeah, he's not a liability. Good player, versatile player, a durable player, except for this season. Productive player. He just didn't have that. And I remember having a conversation with Jerome about this. He just didn't have that diagnostic ability that you crave. And I say you because I'm talking about you. That CJ Mosley. You, that guy over there. You want your inside linebackers to be sniffing because you grew up. You watch Zach Thomas. Everybody watched Zach Thomas. You want him to sniff it out and hit it.
Does that make me wrong?
No, it doesn't make you wrong.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Jerome was above average at everything, excellent at nothing.
That's a very good characterization. And again, you're talking about a third-round pick who wound up being a 6-year starter. I'd say it's one of those where you put in the hit category there.
Yeah, and I looked at where he was, and I wrote it. I can't remember where I wrote it, but the tackle, I think he's behind like Zach Thomas. I think he's like third on franchise history in tackles. I know I wrote it somewhere. I can't remember where I wrote it when I looked it up, but yeah.
That would be the top. Offerdahl would think Offerdahl would have him, even though he didn't play that long, but I think he's a more productive guy. But I mean, he was the best inside linebacker the Dolphins have had since probably
Carlos Dansby.
Yep.
Oh, he's behind Zach Thomas, Rashad Jones, and Jeremiah Bell. Those are the three guys that are ahead of him in career tackles in Dolphins history. Zach Thomas, Rashad Jones.
But since when? I don't know that would include
recent. Yes, I'm talking about recent history because when they started keeping tackle totals.
Okay, but again, if you look like in the grand scheme of things, as far as where you would put Jerome Baker among Dolphin inside linebackers, I would obviously Zach Thomas would be at the top. Nick Bonacani obviously would be at the top. John Offerdahl would be in there.
I don't disrespect Carlos Dansby. Don't do it.
No, I think Dansby was a better player than Jerome Baker. I don't know, although Carlos, with all due respect, wasn't quite as good as he thought he was, but he was a good player. Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
No, he thought he was the best linebacker in the game.
Yes,
even in the era of Ray Lewis, he was. He did think he was the best linebacker in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, aren't you the best alldolphins.com writer in the game? Like, don't you?
There's only two, not that many to beat.
I didn't hear a denial.
We're tied for first. How's that?
There's no shame in what Jerome Baker's been able to accomplish. This is part of the business of the NFL. Jerome knew it was coming. Xavier knew it was coming. Emmanuel Ogba knew it was coming. Keon Crossan knew it was coming. And if Jeff Wilson is smart, Jeff Wilson knows it's coming as well. This is just what happens when you have the leverage. You need to use it, because when the team has the leverage, they're definitely going to use it. And unfortunately, Jerome did not have the leverage in this situation.
And it's not, but there's nothing vindictive about it. It's a business, and the Dolphins are in a cap mess.
Yeah, but
they had tough decisions to make. And again, Jerome Baker's ability as a linebacker, while he's a very solid player, did not justify a cap-strapped team giving them $14.7 million of their very tight
contract that they signed. See, that's my problem. It's a contract that they signed, and that's my problem with the NFL. Contracts mean absolutely nothing, which gets me to the All Dolphins piece that I have, that I've labored and worked for, that everybody's ignoring, about quarterback contracts and salaries, and this report that Tua is going to make $50 million a year, which
you hated that, didn't you?
Oh my God, I hated that. And the reason I hate it, and if you do read that piece, while technically the numbers are going to be fraudulently get him to $50 million, as it does a lot of other quarterbacks, there is no, I want to point out, and I really do need the NFL universe and the Dolphins to point out, because most people don't really understand NFL contracts. And that's where I've worked very hard to separate myself from the rest. Quarterbacks are not making $50 million. They're not. None of them are. The highest paid guys in the league are not making $50 million. And I tell you what the highest paid, the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Rosen, Joe Burrow, I tell you exactly what they're making. And none of them are making $50 million. So for people to think and perpetuate this myth that Tua is going to make $50 million, it's disingenuous and it's false. And you could read it on alldolphins.com, because it really, really, really bothers me. Tua is probably in the realm, if he's smart, will agree to a deal that pays him $45 million for the first 3 years of the deal.
Do you feel better? Do you feel better now, my friend?
I have to say this, because it's like, everybody's all offended. How could Tua make $50 million? He's not going to make $50 million. None of them make $50 million. Patrick Mahomes doesn't make $50 million. Now, when he restructures his contract, he might get to $50 million this year. Because, that's what quarterbacks do. They restructure their contract. Dak might get to $50 million a year when he restructures his contract this year. Yeah, I mean, but it's about leverage, and those quarterbacks have the leverage on their team. So it'll be interesting to see. And you know why they have the leverage on their team, especially Zach? Void years, my friend. You know what void years prevent you from doing? It prevents you from franchise tagging a player. Did you know that?
Yeah. Yes, let's move on
Okay.
because I fresh in. This is the NFL, just the official list of players who got franchise tag and transition tag. Nobody got the exclusive franchise tag, which prevents even conversations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 got the non-exclusive franchise tag, which gives any team the right to negotiate. Then you have to give them 2 first-round picks as compensation if they don't match, or work out an agreement for some kind of trade. And this pertains to L'Jarius Sneed of the Kansas City Chiefs, who got the non-exclusive franchise tag, and supposedly they're willing to let him go for a second-round pick. The others who got, sorry?
No, thank you.
The others who got the non-exclusive franchise tag are Justin Madubuike from the Baltimore Ravens, Brian Burns, Carolina Panthers, Jalen Johnson, the cornerback from the Bears, T. Higgins, the wide receiver from the Bengals. It's an interesting one. Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver for the Colts, Josh Allen, the linebacker for the Jaguars, Sneed, and your buddy, your friend, your man, Antoine Winfield Jr. of the Bucs. And one player got the transition tag, and that's safety Kyle Duggar of the Patriots.
Yes. And that's interesting. That's a surprise. Surprise. And understand, while the Dolphins in the history of the franchise have put the franchise tag on guys like Randy Starks and Paul Soliai in recent years, even though they probably weren't talent-wise worthy of the franchise tag, they just did it to prevent other teams from poaching their talent. Miami was not in position to do that financially this year, which is why Christian Wilkins is being exposed to the market. So it shall be a fun and interesting time to see what happens. We will probably be seeing more bloodshed on this roster, more roster purges, more roster restructures. By my math, they've got $18 million to cut still. What? Yeah.
I'm trying to do the math in my head. They were at 31 minus
10.
12, so they should be 19. What'd you say? What number did you say?
I said 18-ish.
Okay,
Yeah.
18. Okay, 18, 19. Yeah.
And that doesn't include, that just gets you to baseline. It does not include I can go spend money on free agents. So you're probably going to have to clear about another 10. And then later on, you can wait for Xavier's money to address contract restructures, like Tua, even though that's going to remove cap space, not create it. But we will be here, alldolphins.com, to break down all of that information. As you know, where to find the stories for free, no paywall, no subscriptions, no monthly charge. All of the content from Omar Kelly and Alan Poupard here at alldolphins.com. And as you know, we will be back tomorrow to break down more of As the Dolphins World Turns. Visit alldolphins.com for the latest news, analysis, and columns, and it's all free. You can find Omar Kelly and Alan Poupard on the All Dolphins podcast discussing South Florida's NFL team on YouTube and anywhere you find your audio podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share so you stay in the know.